Hi, it's Kate from Grow Your Own Joy, and in today's video, I'm going to spend some time in my kitchen trying to get some meals planned for and prepped for the upcoming busy season. I try to do this every summer, and then as things get busy towards the end of August, September, I have things to pull out and use. I'm also batch cooking some waffles that we can put in the freezer and use kind of like Eggos that we can put in the toaster oven. I started that last night. I'll show you a clip after this. Let's see if I can point. Those are some, that's the batter waiting for me to start making another 2 batches of waffles. And then I also plan on making some chili and some yummy mac and cheese and freezing portions of that, as well as using some for our meals this week. And if I think of anything else that I can batch cook while I'm at it, I may throw that in. But this time of year I tend to get a lot of reduced items. The summer is just a great time to find deals. And also I have things from the garden that I can utilize, so making these meals now is great because I don't have to think about them later, and we're not wasting things we have in abundance right now. So I cleaned off the counter. You'll notice it does look stained. It's old. It's a butcher block counter and it's very old, and it has been sanitized, but it will never look beautiful and clean. I also have dishes that I'm going to work on getting done while making waffles. I'll show you my waffle maker and what I'm going to do to prep these waffles for the freezer. Most mornings I actually do garden in my pajamas before I get ready for the day. It's just what works for me, but this morning I am not actually going to pick berries. I'll probably do that a little bit later today. What has been happening is I'll pick them in the morning, and then by the time the sun comes out a little bit later, you know, a little bit more in full force, a bunch more ripen up. So I'm going to wait a little while today to harvest blackberries, but this morning I am going to pick some herbs, because herbs are best picked early in the morning when all their oils are still strong. So I think I'll pick some thyme and some oregano, and I'll see what else I can pick and get them going in the dehydrator. My goal is to pick enough and dehydrate enough for us, but also to share. Maybe for gifts for Christmas. And then the other thing I have, I just have a bottle of beer and a little bottle opener, and I am going to reset my slug traps because I've been noticing slug damage again. It's just a bunch of little containers with some beer in the bottom, and the slugs are attracted to it for some reason, and they go in and they can't get back out. Kind of grim, but also I've worked really hard for this produce, and I don't want to sacrifice a ton of it if I can avoid it. So that's the plan. Okay, I definitely need to get some weeding done if there is time, but look at how beautiful this is with the lavender and yarrow coming up. My yarrow has not flowered yet, but I'm so excited for when it does. And this lavender is just exploding this year. You can see I have some cardboards trying to suppress some of the weeds. I need more cardboard to get down there. And that in the back is a shed that we'll be building. We're getting some fill around our addition, and then we'll have a spot for that. So some of the oregano I'm harvesting is in that basket, that barrel right there, and thyme, and then there's thyme in the container behind it, and then there's oregano, one more spot in the yard. So that is the plan for this morning. And you can see there are already a lot of blackberries ready to be picked, but I am going to wait a little bit to do that. Alright, so I'm wrong. I'm in the weeds, but here's my yarrow flowering, and this is so beautiful. I think the other one is yellow. But yeah, I'll need to get out here today with some gloves and some clippers and take care of this. That's what I'm going to harvest. That's what I got from just this barrel. I have this lemon thyme here. This is my first year growing this, and it's doing great, so I will pick some of this. Alright, here's today's harvest, the blackberries. I ended up picking them because it's starting to get hot out and I'm not going to want to do this later. Oregano, this green onion that we'll use up, and some thyme. So I don't even know if I told you about this, but I revived some sourdough starter that had been in my fridge for quite some time. I fed it again this morning. Yesterday it didn't really rise too much. Today I see bubbling. And I don't really make a lot of bread, but what I do use this for is I use the discard for things like the sourdough discard, waffles and pancakes. You can do like a pizza crust with it. So it's more for that purpose, and also fermented things are just great for your gut. So I'm hoping this rises today. If not, I'm still going to discard some and make waffles. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of real life in the kitchen, construction zone, whatever you want to call it. Counter, there's a basket of these teeny tiny shallots that are drying. Oh, there's some weeds mixed in here. I pulled these quickly last night, just trying to make space in my garden. I still have a couple things in the greenhouse that I need to get out. And also my dad texted me and said, hey, I have a bunch of volunteer tomato plants. Do you want them? So, of course I want free food if I can make space for it. And I still have some of those onions to plant that I'm hoping that at least I can get green onions out of. So I pulled a bunch of stuff. I pulled potatoes, which weren't really doing much, and we ate them last night for dinner. I pulled all these shallots. What else did I pull? I pulled the broad beans, or fava beans, and we ate those. So now there's some space. But my kitchen now looks like this. So here are the shallots. That's stuff from breakfast I need to put away. My drinks for the day. Stuff for making sourdough. Oh, I didn't write down that I fed it. So it's 7:12. And I fed at like 8 a.m.-ish. I fed it yesterday. It really wasn't doing anything, so I just went ahead and fed it again. Floor is filthy. I need to sweep and mop. Here is today's harvest I need to deal with. I have this oregano. It's been raining a lot, so it's pretty dirty. It needs to be washed. I have this giant green onion I'm just going to cut up and add to what we're cooking. Blackberries that need to be washed and frozen, and 2 types of thyme, a regular thyme and a lemon thyme, that needs to be washed and dehydrated. Always things going in here during garden season. So that's the plan for that. I also need to, what do I need to do? I'm going to run to the grocery store today, get a couple things. I think I'm going to start doing some batch cooking, some freezer meals for when I go back to work in late August, just so we have some easy meals. This time of year we tend to have a lot of stuff coming in, and I have to do something with it. And I also can get produce really cheap, so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just cook extra meals and freeze them, and then when things start getting busy again, I have them in the deep freezer. So here is the line from this morning, and here is where it has risen to. There is a crack in it. I don't know. Gluten-free sourdough is weird. But once this falls, I will be good to discard some and make my waffles. And again, I don't know a ton about sourdough. I'm pretty new to this, so if there's something I need to know, please tell me. Hi, it is Wednesday, July, I never know the date, 12. And right now I am just getting, I'll turn you around and show you. I have a couple little shallots from my garden that needed to be used right away. Some regular thyme and lemon thyme from my garden. This is a gigantic green onion that had fallen over and was ready to be picked. I'm going to chop this up, and then I'll chop up some potatoes. I bought some Yukon Gold, Yukon Gold potatoes today. Salt, pepper, olive oil or avocado oil, maybe some other seasonings, and those will be going in the air fryer. And then I'll be cooking up some corn on the cob that I got reduced a couple of days ago, and some of our Walden pork chops, boneless pork chops that we got. I'll probably do those in a cast iron pan. All right, this is a joint effort here. So I had made the corn and the potatoes. Then I went to yoga. While I was gone, my husband made the pork chops and reheated the potatoes, and the corn is still warm. And he cooked the pork chops in butter with salt, pepper, and garlic, and they are delicious. In the cast iron pan, right?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
In the oven?
Yes.
Okay. So that's dinner, and I have some barbecue sauce, ketchup, whatever, out if we want to add it to things. Oh, construction is happening. Here are the waffles I made last night, and I popped them in the fridge, and these used up some almond flour that I've had on hand for too long, some coconut oil that needed to be used up, frozen bananas, sourdough starter, all different kinds of things. I will link the recipe down below if I can remember, but the plan is to make several more batches of these today and pop them in the freezer for easy meals. So I've just been reheating them in the toaster oven, and they are delicious. Alright, so you make this waffle recipe in the blender. So I am doubling it to just try to use some things up. So I have 3 cups of gluten-free rolled oats in here. I am going to add 1 cup of this almond flour that's been in my freezer a really long time. It was $2.50 on clearance. I hope all of this is going to fit in the blender. Alright, then I have this sourdough starter, and it's a gluten-free sourdough starter, and I need to discard some so that I can feed it. So I'm going to discard a cup into this mix. I was going to make a single batch, but I have way more starter than that, and I made a batch yesterday as well. I think I just showed you that. So we'll put a cup of starter in here. Alright, so the cup of starter is in there. This recipe is just what we need because it uses up so many things that we've had on hand for too long into something that we can eat and have for easy breakfast probably for like the next couple months. So the recipe says to use 2 cups of milk. I have this organic milk that is past its expiration but still totally fine. So I'm going to add that. I actually ended up adding a little bit extra yesterday because I like a little bit of a thinner batter. So I will get that in there. Alright, I am going to use a tablespoon of this gluten-free vanilla extract. I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to put a glug in. And then I'll tell you the rest of the things that are going in. So, I don't know. Sure, that's enough. One of the things in this recipe that I am not using is cinnamon because it has a lot of flavors going on in here, and I'm just not taking the time to get it out of my cabinet and add it. I am substituting coconut oil for butter because I have a lot of coconut oil that needs to be used up. And I'm subbing coconut sugar for maple syrup because I have coconut sugar that needs to be used up. And coconut sugar is also a low glycemic sugar, so it's a good substitute for maple syrup. So I just realized I need to, I have about 40 minutes before I need to be at an appointment. So I'm just going to tell you the other things that I need to add into here and get it going. So I have some frozen bananas that I thawed in the fridge overnight. And I'm just going to squeeze those out of the banana peel into here. It says about 1 cup of banana. I'm using 4 small bananas. This recipe can take a lot of banana. I'm putting in, I think it's 4 tablespoons of butter, but I'm doing coconut oil, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt, and that should be everything. I'm going to get this going, and then I'm going to quickly feed my sourdough starter, and then get in the shower because I have an appointment. Alright, here are my bananas that I thawed out, and oh, that's the microwave. I needed to melt 1 tablespoon of butter because I only had 3 tablespoons of coconut oil left in the bottom of my container. But all I do is I take the banana and I like pull the bottom off, and it looks awful, I know. But you just take the outside off and squeeze the insides into the container. So I have everything in the blender, and you just blend it up for about 30 seconds to a minute until everything is smooth, and then it needs to sit for an hour. I actually let it go a little bit more yesterday before you can make the waffles, and that's perfect timing because I should be back for my appointment by then. Alright, so while that was blending, I cleaned up the kitchen a little bit. I blended it for about a minute. I'm going really fast this morning. I have a lot to do. So in here, I am just trying to use up gluten-free flours that I've had on hand for a while. I used to use a gluten-free baking book and follow their recipes exactly, and they never turned out, despite how hard I tried to follow them exactly. I am doing my own thing now. So we're using trial and error. But today I just fed the sourdough starter with some organic sorghum flour that I had on my shelf and some water. And yesterday it took like 6 hours to rise. We'll see how long it takes today. I really have no plans for using this, but I want to keep it going. So I am back from physical therapy, and I am going to get to making these waffles and some other recipes, and I can't wait to show you. So I took out some cooling racks. This is actually an oven safe rack, but it'll do the same thing. I actually have a third one I need to get out too, and as I'm making the waffles, I will put them on these racks and make sure they are thoroughly cooled and they don't feel like they have any moisture, excess moisture, before I put them in freezer bags for the freezer, and then when we heat them up, we'll just put them in the toaster oven. I also need to wipe down my oven and stove, but I will get to that when I can. It's more important right now to get things going. I also realized I did not mark, this is yesterday's mark, I did not mark where my sourdough was today, so I don't know if it rose. I'll have to look and see in a little while and see if it's up a little bit higher. So this is my little Dash waffle maker. It makes perfect size little Eggos. I have already used it. I used it yesterday to make some waffles that we ate for breakfast this morning. We have for meals this week. But I actually have two of them. One is brand new, still in the package. I'm trying to wait to open things that I have that are new until we have the new kitchen ready. So I'm just going to use this one little waffle maker and plug along making waffles. And as I'm doing that, I'm also going to pick up around the kitchen and possibly try to get the beef and onions browning for the chili. So I quickly cleaned off this space, and yeah, I don't have a lot of counter here. This is it. And then the island that we purchased when we moved in, that is currently falling apart and stained. So I have this big container of the batter that I mixed up earlier. I am going to start scooping this into here. I think to start, I'm just going to use a little measuring cup to scoop it in. And then as I go, I'll have to use a spatula, but all I do, this has been previously sprayed, and I just put a little of the batter in, and that's it. When the light turns off, they should be done, but gluten-free things cook funny, and I actually have to wait a few seconds after the light turns off to make sure it's fully cooked. So we're going to let these go, and while I'm waiting for this to finish, I'm going to deal with this dish mess. My priority is washing this cup right here so I can make iced coffee. So these waffles come out a little bit darker than a traditional waffle. I think it's the banana and the almond flour in it. But, sorry about the crinkling, I have something to put in our recycling bag. But basically, it will just come away with the tongs. The first one is always so hard to get out. I'm just going to risk my fingers here. All right. Put it on the rack and then do the next one. And I'm just going to keep continuing this process, and I'll update you with how many I get as I go. Yesterday, one batch made a baker's dozen. It made 13. All right. I have my iced coffee made. I just need to put the lid on. And then I actually have a little thing of some potatoes and onions left over from last night. And I'm going to eat this now. I did have a waffle for breakfast, or actually I had 2 waffles for breakfast, but I am just so hungry today and I need something more. So I'm going to eat this, and it's like 11 o'clock. Drink my iced coffee and keep going on the waffles. And also, I have started the dishes and done some cleaning up. So that's just going to be the plan. Kitchen day. Okay, it is 11:30. I have 8 waffles done. The 9th one is going. I still have a little more than half of the batter left. Sourdough is still not rising. This is a pan with some olive oil in it. I'm going to get some onions and some ground beef, 2 pounds of ground beef sauteing. Normally I just cook chili in a pot, but because I'm trying to make a giant batch so I can freeze a few meals and have chili for tonight, I am going to saute things in stages and dump them into my crock pot and then just let it cook all day. And this is basically trying to use up stuff before it goes bad. So I have a red onion and this big yellow onion. This is actually pretty new, but this is not going to be enough onion. So I'm going to get those cut up to saute. And I'm not following like the same chili recipe that I normally follow. It's more, it will still taste good, but I have all the stuff that I need to use before it goes bad. So I also took out, I had this jar of pasta sauce from a few weeks ago. It was left over from a meal. That will be added in as well. And as I pull more things out, I will be sure to show you. So out of that whole red onion, this is the only part that was salvageable, and all of that is compost. But this is why I do what I do. Some people would have just thrown that whole onion away, and the rest is still perfectly fine. So I'm just trying to show how you can use things up and be frugal and prep ahead to save yourself time and money. So I never use these seasoning packets to make my chili. I always do my own seasonings. However, these were 80% off, I believe, off of $1.19. I can't buy spices for that price. So I'm going to use 2 of these gluten-free chili herbs and spices. And then I'll just look on here and see what seasonings I normally add that are not in here. So cumin seed is something that I add. There's cumin, but I'll still probably add some cumin seed. Basil, I'll have to add. I'll probably add some extra chili powder, some paprika, and I'll just taste it. Alright, so I definitely overfilled this. I don't know how that happened because I'm pretty sure I put the same amount, but once this is done, I'll have to wipe this down with a wet cloth before I can do more. Okay, I got this cleaned up. Another waffle is going over here. I can see that the sourdough is starting to rise, so that is great. Still trying to think of what I'm going to make with that. I might make some biscuits, some discard biscuits. Alright. These are the onions that are sauteing. Once they're nice and sauteed, I will add those into the crock pot. My crock pot is not plugged in because it's going to go where the waffle maker is. So I'm just going to add things to the crock pot on my counter and plug it in when I'm all done. Here's what I've pulled out of the fridge so far to use up. So I have some celery that needs to be used, 2 very sad green peppers. I also have some bell pepper and jalapeno in my freezer I'm going to pull out. Some zucchini, I'm not sure how much of this I will add, and some sad green onions. I also pulled out the ground beef. Okay, so I also have some jalapenos from the garden. This says fava beans, but it's not. I have some bell pepper from the freezer. I'm actually going to look and see if I have any more colored bell pepper in there, but I kind of have to go digging. And then I have this ground beef that was reduced, and then a Walden ground beef. I pulled some garlic. These garlic were actually just harvested this year, but need to be used right away. And this is a garlic from last year. I also have some mushrooms that my mother gave me that we will add. So I have the sauteed celery and onions in the bottom of the crock pot. At every step of my cooking and adding, I am salting and peppering everything. I have 14 waffles so far, and I'm still going. Alright, here are some more things I found in the freezer. Here are some diced tomatoes left over from last year's garden. A little tiny bit of bell pepper. And this is the inside of a zucchini. Like the guts that are scraped out to make zucchini boats. So that will go in as well. Okay, I have the beef sauteing or browning, and I am going to salt and pepper it and then add the chili seasoning right to the meat. That way when I put it into the crock pot, it will add that much more flavor. Spices, if you cook them in some oil or fat, they usually release more flavor, so that's the plan. towards the end of cooking this beef, I will throw in the peppers to soften as well. And then I'm going to keep chopping up the produce. So I just threw these tomatoes and this thing of zucchini in to start thawing in the crock pot. The crock pot is still not on, but that'll work. I am going to chop up. I am not going to use this zucchini because I already found that zucchini in the freezer, so we will use this with a dinner. But I am going to pick through and chop up these green onions. They're worse for the wear. And I will replant the roots in my garden to make more green onions. And I need to find some canned goods to go in here as well. I also have all of these waffles cooling and just a few more left to make. Okay, so I have 2 ears of corn that were left over from dinner last night. I'm going to take the corn off the cob and add that in. I have green chilies to add into the chili. I have a can of pinto beans, a can of dark red kidney beans. I also found a can of stewed tomatoes and a can of diced tomatoes that I got reduced a few days ago. I have a can of tomato paste and some black beans. So I chopped up the mushrooms and added them in with the beef. I'm still trying to break this up into smaller pieces. It's pretty chunky. You know what? I might actually use this tool to break it up. Yeah, that'll work. And then afterwards I'll add in the peppers and green onion I cut up. I also took that corn off the cob and added it into the crock pot. I'll get the seasoning in here, and I still need to chop up that garlic. As it's cooking, I will be checking it for flavor and adding more seasonings as it seems necessary. Okay, I added the seasoning packets, some cumin seeds, some paprika, and a big pinch of basil, dried basil from last year's garden. And I'll be adding this to the crock pot. I'm just going to let it go a few more minutes so those flavors can come together. I'm going to start opening cans. So I have the 3 cans of beans, the tomato products, and the green chilies. Alright, here are all the products I will be trying to fit into this crock pot. I don't know if they're all going to fit. I'm going to try my best. The beans I will drain and rinse. Everything else is just going in as is. These stewed tomatoes, I'm going to actually take that meat masher thing I had and mush these up in the can before I add them in. Normally I would use like a diced tomato like this, but this can has been kicking around for a while and I would like to get rid of it. Okay, so I pretty much ran out of space and I still have these 4 cans that I hope can go in here. Some of the frozen ingredients will cook down a lot, so I'm going to let this cook maybe an hour or so and then see what else I can fit in. Okay, I stirred some air bubbles out of it. I only have the kidney beans and tomato paste to go in. I might not even need the tomato paste because I put that tomato sauce in there that was pretty thick. I would like to be able to get these beans in. But it is very full, and I'm hoping to get maybe like a dinner tonight plus 3 or 4 meals out of this. We'll see what it cooks down to. So I'm going to let this go, put the lid on, let it go a little while, stirring occasionally, and see if I can fit the other ingredients in. If it looks dry, I will just add water as necessary. And all of the waffles are done. I got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Like 22 waffles. Some of them are a little smaller than others, and I'll show you how I'll bag these up in a little while. So I went out to my garden just to check on things because I hadn't been out there today, and I harvested a shirt full of peas and green beans because it looks like a storm is coming and I wanted to get that done. I don't like to leave things out there if it's going to rain for a few days. They just tend to get away from you. I'd rather pick them now and figure out something to do with them. And now I need to go harvest blackberries. Here's my harvest today. The berries are slowing down, but there's still enough to make it worth picking. So right now we have a lot of ingredients and not a lot of things that are prepared and ready to eat. So for lunch today, I put some mustard and salami and a little tiny bit of cheese I had left over on these almond flour tortillas. And I'm going to make some kind of quesadilla sandwich thing. And I may have a cut up apple. And that's everything. Also, it is 1:51 and I am just getting to lunch. But look at this sourdough. This is doing amazing. It rose. So, chili is cooking. I'm undecided if I'm going to do the mac and cheese today or tomorrow. I'm thinking it might be tomorrow. And the waffles are still cooling. The chili is still cooking. I'll update you when I have something to show. After I eat lunch, I'm just going to go fold laundry and sit in the air-conditioned room. Okay, I'm pushing this thing to the limits. It is full, but it is not thick enough, and I needed to add in some tomato paste, so I got that can of tomato paste in here. And we'll just see how it goes. I don't think that I'm going to be able to fit that other can of beans. But one thing that I forgot to add that I want to tell you is I always put a bay leaf or two in my chili. It just adds a great flavor. So I need to do that now. And it is about 2:45, so it's been on high for, what, 2 hours maybe? So, it smells so good. Here are the waffles in the Ziploc bags, ready for the freezer. Here is the chili, almost done in the crock pot. It did not cook down very much, but all I have left is that one can of red kidney beans that I'm not going to be able to get into here. After we have some dinner out of this, I might add them in. And then I will let this cool down and get it in 2-gallon freezer bags. Alright, here's my chili for dinner. I'm going to top it with some I can't even talk. Sour cream, a few jalapenos, and I have these blue corn dippers. And that is dinner for tonight. And I am just going to stop for the night. I will film when I put things in bags after the chili has cooled, but it still has a little while to cook down. It's basically done, but there's still a lot of liquid. And yeah, that's it. Okay, it is, I don't even know, Friday the 14th of July, and I am exhausted. Well, we have baby kittens. We have 2 5-week-old kittens that we're caring for right now. I will probably talk about that in a different video and show you a little bit about them. Maybe I'll put a clip of them somewhere in here. But it's been busy, and I think I only got like 2 hours of sleep last night, and then I was able to nap for an hour today. So dinner was whatever I could pull together. I pulled some sausages out of the freezer. I pulled tater tots out of the freezer and broccoli out of the fridge, and that was the easiest thing I could think of to do. So I cooked the tater tots in the air fryer, and then I cooked the sausages in the air fryer, and I just boiled the broccoli on the stove. We have ketchup, we have mayonnaise, we have mustard, hot sauce, whatever we want, and that is dinner. So I will show you my plate when it is put together. I forgot to film my plate. Here's my husband's plate. The sausage, the broccoli, and the tater tots. Today is Sunday the 16th, and I was filming batch cooking meals for my freezer while making dinner. So I made chili a couple of nights ago, and also got 2 extra meals out of it and put it into the freezer. Made waffles for the week and got 2 extra weeks of waffles and put those in the freezer. And then I was supposed to make the mac and cheese, and we suddenly got kittens. So I will probably make a video about kittens and why that is taking so much of our time. I have not been sleeping well. But I am making this cauliflower mac and cheese recipe I have, but I am doing it with broccoli instead. And then we have, for tonight, we have some pre-cooked ground beef that's already seasoned that I found in my deep freezer, and I'm just going to heat that up, and we'll have that with our macaroni and cheese with broccoli. And then I'm hoping to get a couple extra pans for the freezer, and that way we can have future sides or lunches. So on the stove, my water is boiling, and I'm adding a whole box of these gluten-free elbows. This is going to be more than a single batch, but probably less than a double batch. I am just going to make a ton of cheese sauce, maybe a batch and a half of cheese sauce. Basically, I don't change the amount of cheese in the recipe. I just end up adding more milk, and it's still fine. So I'm going to cook these noodles. Here I have frozen broccoli that I'm cooking up that I'll cut up to bite-sized pieces. And then I also have broccoli left over from dinner the other night that we are not going to eat with anything. We ate everything that went with it, so I will also chop that up into bite-sized pieces and put it in. This is the cauliflower mac and cheese recipe from spendpennies.com. It's really good. I do think that this is a ton of cheese for the recipe, and I also don't top it with cheese. So I have 4 cups of cheese plus Parmesan. So what I'll end up doing, because I have more macaroni and probably more broccoli, I will increase the butter and rice flour, increase the seasoning, and increase the milk, but keep the cheese the same. And that should be enough cheese sauce to cover like a batch and a half maybe. So that's the plan. So the thing that this recipe is using up is we eat croutons with our Caesar salad and other salads that we have. And because they're gluten-free, they don't stay together very well. And there's always a ton of crumbs left at the bottom. So what we do is we combine all the crumbs into a bag. So we have about half a bag of crouton crumbs. And what I'll do is mix some of this with butter. It's already seasoned. And top the mac and cheeses with this. Instead of chopping it with cheese. And it's a nice crunchy topping. And instead of throwing all this away or tossing it out to the birds, we can eat it. And it adds flavor. So I have these cake pans. I have 6 of them. I don't know how many I will fill full of mac and cheese, but I will start by pulling them apart, and I am going to spray probably just one of them, and then I will spray the rest as I go. I'm also going to take out a glass Pyrex and spray that down with avocado oil, ready for the pasta. I am not going to show making the cheese sauce. We don't really have enough space in here for me to set up to film right now. And it's just, I'm not very good at it yet, but I'll be sure to show you at some point. And I'm going to mix everything together and get it into pans. All right, I took more stuff out. I have my bucket of white rice flour. I have onion powder, paprika, garlic powder, salt and pepper, milk. This one was 99 cents reduced. Hasn't been opened. It is still good. And then remember all of those creamers, if you saw a previous video that I had been given from a party. This recipe calls for light cream, and we'll be using these up and then just making up the rest of it in milk. I believe it's 1 cup light cream, 1.5 cups milk. I'll probably use additional milk to, this comes out really thick, so I can get away with thinning it out and making more sauce. And then we have our grated Monterey cheese and cheddar and Parmesan and our croutons, and we're ready to go. Alright, so this is ridiculous. So this is from like Dunkin' Donuts, because someone brought like a box of Joe set to, I actually already threw some of these away, but someone brought a box of Joe kit, or 2 boxes of Joe to a family event, and no one was going to use them, and I took them, and I've been actually using them for other things too, but I have more than a cup of cream, and I didn't pay anything, and this probably would have gone bad and gone in the trash, so that's awesome. So I have that, and then I also need 1.5 cups of milk, but I will probably end up using closer to 2 or 3 cups of milk. Stirring in the cheese into my seasoned, I guess it's like a bechamel sauce. Like you start with milk and a roux and then add in the cheese at the end. So it's a nice cheesy sauce. I'm going to keep stirring it until it's smooth. I think I'm going to add a little bit more cheese. We end up adding like almost 2 whole cups extra milk. This recipe has, I think, a really high flour and fat ratio to the amount of milk, so it can take more milk, it can take more cheese. I will try to put it down below if I can find it. Now I'm going to mix the cheese sauce in with my broccoli and elbow noodles and get it into the pans. We'll see how many pans I end up with. here it is all mixed together. I still have to get it into pans, but I just wanted to say, like, when I first went gluten-free, due to some health issues, I never thought I would be eating things like this, and this is so good. Like, I made the cheese sauce using rice flour instead of wheat flour, gluten-free pasta. Yeah, I'm so happy, and it's great to be able to cook these things at home. So I got one pan for now and 2 pans for later. That worked out perfectly. These are just brownie pans. We're only 2 people, so that is more than enough for us. And this is just a small, here's my hand, Pyrex pan. Here are the breadcrumbs mixed with some butter. I'm going to top these pans with that. One will go in the oven for dinner tonight, just to brown it. And the other 2 will just get foil and go into the freezer. And for dinner tonight, I have a pan. I'll put a little bit of oil in it, and I have this cooked ground beef that I did a long time ago. This was back August of last year. But we will just heat this up and eat this with our mac and cheese. Alright, so that's it for this video. We got the waffles, the chili, and the mac and cheese done. I got some good things in my freezer for future meals. We used up some things that would have otherwise gone bad. And now we have some easy meals for later. So if you liked what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.